Hello and welcome to the podcast where we'll be giving our thoughts and theories on Higurashi Matsuribayashi. I'm Green Starfish and I'm joined by Isopupu.
Hello.
So, do you wanna start anywhere specifically? I was thinking we go through the start of the game, through the chapter, we just kind of go through a bit in chronological order, but then we also like sprinkle our theories in
Yeah, because
between there.
there's lots of interesting stuff to talk about. You know.
Uh, okay, so I was thinking, I want to highlight the the film similarities between that Takano and Sadako have in the prologue. I thought that was very interesting. The parallels that were drawn between them. How they were being saved from the abuse that they suffered, but
Oh.
then Takano kind of went down the wrong path after that. Like she didn't start out evil or whatever. Kind of humanized her character a bit more.
Yeah, that's how she is presented. Well, I never really saw her as in comparison to Satoko. I thought she
Hmm.
was much more of a foil to Rika and Hanyu than really any sort of relation to Sadako.
I mean, it wasn't any direct relation. I just noticed some similarities between the two. Kind of, yeah, with the abuse, and it's just
Mm.
that then Takano makes some mistakes after that, which kind of sets her on that wrong path.
Well, most of them aren't really her fault, though. She didn't have many choices growing up. It's more about unfortunate circumstance.
I mean,
And
yeah,
The
she
the
was she wasn't alone on it. Yeah, she
the
was kind of.
mistake, yeah, the mistakes she makes come much later.
Oh yeah. I mean, those do come much later, but that's what I mean. In the beginning, she was kind of in a similar position as Sadako, and then from there, as she got older, she kind of started going down the wrong path, but that she didn't start out that way.
Well, yeah, I think that was pretty clearly established in the chapter.
Yeah, and then well, what do you think about that other gods that showed up as uh Takano was about to get struck by the lightning in the prologue, that voice you
Yeah,
hear. I don't
right.
it's not Hanyu's voice, at least from what I could tell.
I actually thought it was Hanyu. I think that if it was Hanyu, just a very interesting narrative there. I think.
Well,
I
what
mean,
what
it kind of ties into my personal theory about, uh, yeah, what's kind of really going on.
can you elaborate on that a bit more? Why do you think
Well,
it's Hanyu there?
well, it. I don't really have any evidence or reasons for that. It's just if it was Hanyu, it's a much more interesting narrative. Uh,
I mean, I guess what because she
just
then kind of why would she?
because Well, I guess I mean, are we gonna go into the theories already? Because
I
I've
mean,
got a lot to say.
I was thinking we kind of intersperse the theories like along with the recap. So like, I mean, if this kind of ties into this, might be a
Well,
good idea.
if I had to get started, it'd be a pretty long tangent. So may maybe we could just do a quick recap and circle back to this.
I mean, there isn't that much I was gonna recap. Mostly just the parts that seemed interesting to me that stood out a bit. I think it's probably worth going to the theory at this point.
Well, I guess we don't need a recap at them.
Yeah, I'm assuming everyone who's listening to this, has played, Matsuribayashi and vaguely remembers what happens in the chapter.
Well, yeah. I guess. Just in case you haven't. Click away from this video. This is massive Higurashi
Oh yeah,
spoilers.
no. If you haven't played Matsuribayashi, what are you doing here? Stop
We, we
watching.
already
Go
we
play
already
it.
spoiled the villain, bro. We're cooked.
I mean, well, okay, but I mean, if you've already played Higurashi, you already know it's Takano. So like, but
Well,
like
yeah, but what if?
Matsuribayashi spoilers. So now what do you go? What are you doing here? Go play. It's peak.
I don't know. Maybe.
Uh,
Maybe it's somebody's first Higurashi video. You never know.
oh God, that would be terrible. Let's hope
Would be.
not. Uh,
Anyway, I guess I could just dive into the
yeah,
theories. So, I feel like there's one kind of big unanswered question by the end of Matsuribashi is that the whole conflict in Higurashi, at least in chapter 8, it kind of reveals kind of like a game between two sides. I feel like because at least we kind of get snippets of this in the fragment world.
yeah, with the game board and all.
Yes, it's like there's a game board and like with each side having pieces. So it makes you think who's the player on each side. Well, the player on Rika's side is pretty obvious. I mean, she or what we presume is her is in the fragment world. Connecting the fragments. Trying to get a better outcome, which is only feels like playing the game. But
Like Rika
who's then
herself
the
is in the
or
fragment world, or
what?
I was more so thinking that like it was Burn Castle than Hanyu in the fragment world.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't think we're kind of getting well.
But I guess
I feel
that's a
like we're
separate
getting kind of.
sure.
I feel like we're getting kind of off topic there.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Because I disagree
I guess we
there.
can address that later.
Yeah. So who is her opponent in the fact then? Well, it's not Takano because Takano can't access this world. He's just a person.
But
But
who's to say that the opponent has to access the fragment world? Like this is just a
well,
situation
well
that
then it's not
Takano
a
created.
well, then it's not a game. It, okay, if I in a game now, if we have like I guess use like a chess analogy, both players have pieces. Well, each side also needs a player, and definitely like I mean things have been very heavily stacked against Rika. So I think the reason because of that is because for a long time she wasn't playing the game,
Yeah, she was kind of
but
apathetic.
yeah, I don't think she even knew how to play the game until, like, she kind of learned through chapter 6 and 7.
Hmm.
Mm.
I think it's
'Cause
also more so that then, like, she was, she tried to do it earlier and then she was, like, demotivated because she
well, but
couldn't
I
do
don't
it.
think she was using all the tools to her disposal. I don't think she was
Well,
really
no.
interacting with the fragment world.
I mean, I think it was,
I
mentioned
mean,
that they were,
she's
trying for hundreds of years.
I mean, yes, but, like, that was in the fragments, she'd go into a new fragment and try it there, but she wasn't using the power she had within the fragment world to manipulate them
I
to her
guess
benefit.
that's fair. I mean, hmm.
And I feel like only there's one pretty clear, at least I think there's a very compelling opponent for Rika, Witch Miyoko.
What?
What if, Miyoko did die there? She got hit by that lightning bolt and then turned into a witch.
Why? Why would? Uh,
Because,
hmm.
because then she didn't have anyone like Hanyu who put her into a new fragment. So she became a, a witch permanently, I guess a true or full witch, unlike Rika,
But why would
who
she
still had
become
that
a
strong
witch
core.
after death?
Well, because a god killed her?
Huh.
Oh,
Hmm.
we don't know exactly how it happened, I feel like, but I feel like it's a very interesting theory because then, things start going in Takano's favor as if they were manipulated. Like she just happens to find the coin on in that phone booth. Then Dr. Takano takes her in. Things are it's like yeah,
I mean, I
and
guess.
then things are kind of just then continue in a way where Takano starts achieving her dream of avenging her grandfather, proving his theory right, and then until in probably what is like the first timeline of Higurashi, she wins. But here's the key point here, which Miyoko, she was originally content with just seeing kind of living through Takano in a way, but after her victory, there's not really much left to fight for. She's what's her purpose now?
Yeah.
Well, that where Rika and Hanyu come in because she's in the fracking world. She can also see Hanyu sending Rika to these new fragments, and well, that's where the game comes in. Well, suddenly she has a new goal. Some Someone who like react and change according to what she does. I think she's already won as Takano. I think her new goal is then to destroy Rika until she fully, gives up on her, you know, humanity and becomes a witch. Then she have some company.
Huh.
She wants, because if and this is much more interesting if Hanyu was the one who originally killed her, because then it's kind of taking revenge, giving Rika the same suffering she endured of becoming a witch.
I mean, is it? I mean, is becoming a witch really suffering though? Like at at the
Well,
very end, don't we see kind of Burncastle having fun with like the banquet stuff and
see, that's a whole different thing. I think that scene takes place in the future. But I mean, a lot of time was spent in chapter 7 and also a little bit in chapter 8 of where Hanyu very explicitly doesn't want Rika to become a witch, aka lose hope, which would cause her to become a witch. It's like she still has like a strong like a tether to her humanity. So even though she can't, through Hanyu's power, she can visit the fragment world. He hasn't completely turned into a witch yet,
I mean, yeah,
unlike what
that
she
makes sense.
claims a little was. She's still able to somewhat enjoy, having fun, and she's not completely faking it.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I think that's the outcome, Hanyu is trying to avoid for for Rika. That's Hanyu's kind of
Hmm.
prime objective. Not let Rika become a witch, because if that happened, well then she'd be all alone.
Uh,
She'd have failed in
mm,
her mission to protect, the person who made her sort of rediscover her love for humanity,
I
which kind of
mean,
goes into my Hanyu theory. uh,
yeah, I mean, I guess if Rika becomes fully
she'd
apathetic, I
just
guess
be.
she wouldn't really pay much attention to Hanyu either. But
I mean, no, she wouldn't be with Hanyu at all. She'd be completely in the fragment world.
I
You
think
know,
Hanyu's also able to go into the fragment world.
I no, I don't think so. She's never
Hmm.
shown up there.
Yeah, but through like some of the dialogue, it's heavily implied that she's there. At least with Burncastle.
No, she isn't. She's implied
Yeah.
to, be, she gives Rika the power to be in the fragment world, but she's not actually there herself. Why do you think she is there?
Because like there's multiple there's some lines of dialogue. I think I might have
No, there
sent them to
isn't.
you before, but
She,
like
she isn't. She, she isn't there. I mean, I feel like this is like a useful time to use Occam's razor. If someone isn't seen in a room, heard in a room, mentioned to be in a room, then well, it's kind of safe to assume they're not in the room. That doesn't really change
I
just
mean
because it's a
there's
fragment world.
I mean it is mentioned though, like
It's
like
not.
like some of the scenes are from Han Yu's POV in the fragment
No,
world.
they aren't. What are you talking about?
Yeah, they are.
No, they aren't. None of the fragment world scenes are from Hanju's POV, unless you mean the fragments to see in the connecting fragments, because those are just like memories of events. Not
No, I'm not talking about those. Like,
well, yeah, but all of the scenes in the actual fragments world are strictly from Rika's POV.
uh, but I don't think it's definitely not like Rika at least talking because the
Well,
Rika
it
is
is
mentioned in
definitely
the third
Rika. It's just
person.
she's well, yeah, because when she's in the fragment world, she's less connected to her humanity, so she's more distant. But I think it's definitely still Rika.
My theory is that Burncastle at that point.
I I feel like there's definitely difference in behavior. Uh, but when we see the banquet secret ending, I think that definitely is Bryn Castle because I think it happens after Rika and her, I guess her the witch half of her Bryn Castle have fully separated. Well, in before that, it's like kind of it kind of doesn't make sense to separate the two because she is both. Like that is two parts of her.
Hmm. Because I just kind of find that hard to believe because, like, I mean, if she's still
What?
her, well, like, wouldn't she just refer to herself in the first person at that point? Like,
She
why
does
would.
a couple times. She's just she's
I
just
know, I'm
very
pretty sure in most of the. The fragment world scenes, Rika is referred to in the third person, which, leads me to believe that's Burnt Castle at that point.
well no, because she also calls herself Arika.
Does she?
Yes, in chapter 7.
Yeah, I don't remember that. Maybe I have to look up the clip.
Well, anyway, I just think it makes sense for her to be Rika because we know how he's like sending her through the fragments, but she's scared of Rika, losing her humanity, which is, as we can see in the fragments world, it's definitely happening. She is becoming more detached, referring to herself in the third person. I feel like
Hmm.
it
Okay, but if
doesn't make sense
if
for at that point her to be Burn Castle. I feel like
I
there
feel
is.
like if she's already referring to herself in the third person, she is Burnt Castle.
Yeah, but there's a difference between. Yeah, but she doesn't refer to herself as Burncastle.
Well, yeah, because there's no need to just say her own name.
Except she does refer to herself as Arika, and just this kind of. I feel like this kind of missing the point because we already see her act different in the banquet where she acts differently. We see her like take on a be able to kind of like appear in other fragments, which kind of implies some change has taken place. And I feel like that would make a lot of sense if that part is after Rika and Burncastle split.
Hmm. I mean, yeah, at that point they definitely have to be split because the regular Rika is continuing on with her life while Burncaster is like doing whatever she wants, like creating wacky alternate timelines or whatever.
Yes, which is like before that they kind of have to be the same person because their lives haven't split yet. Rika still is suffering through the loop. And she's if the loops had kept going, more and more of Rika would turn into a witch, aka what we call Burncat. Which this was prevented by her succeeding, which is why afterwards, which is what I predict will happen in Higurashi, a full, I guess, more I don't know, violent separation will happen, where Rika will have to
Hmm.
like reckon with her kind of her being more detached from the moment and give up that part of herself so she can live a normal life again. And then that part of her that has spent like 100 years between timelines will become Burncastle because then you know she won't be Rika. She will need a new identity apart from Rika, which
Hmm.
is why we haven't heard uh like actually the burn name Burncastle said by anyone because chronologically she doesn't exist yet.
That's true. Although,
The banquet is just a glimpse into that future.
I mean, looking I'm looking through some old clips here. Um, like I'm looking at like the beginning ones for like the fragment with me and Higurashi. It said like she has her own identity, thoughts, you know, body. Like, would that be like that? That I think that implies more of a separation than just like another version of Rika. I feel like that's implying that's already burned castle at that point.
Well, no, that's just Rika turning into a half witch. She's not fully a witch, not fully Rika, which is a unique kind of identity. This is not explicit confirmation of Castle.
Hmm. I want to return to like the Hanyu in the fragment world thing.
Ah, sure.
Um, like there is, I think it was nearly right before you enter, Matsuribayashi, I guess, Rika or like Burnt Castle, she refers to, you know, you and Hanyu like at the same time, which leads me to believe that it is Hanyu in the fragment world.
Well, no, Hanju's just her ally who's instrumental in even being able to play at the game board. That doesn't mean she has access to the fragment world. Now, I actually think the reason she doesn't have access to the fractal world is because of that, like, cut in her horn. She should have access to it, but she doesn't, which is, I think, part of why she's been so secretive towards Rika. She can't see what Rika is, doing in between the fragments, which is, causing her become more protective and like scared of her turning into a witch.
Hmm.
Because if you remember, at least from I think what we saw, Hanyu like at some point came to what was Onigafuchi. She fell in love with humanity, got married, like had a daughter, but then the village turned against her and her own daughter was forced to kill her.
I mean, do we? I guess we could go into the Hanyu discussion then. And
Yeah.
do
And then
you?
I think after that, Hanyu like lost faith in humanity. She became like bitter and cynical, which is I think part of where the whole Hidamizawa syndrome and also whatever that I guess kind of I don't know what was that something placed on the Fude family. She placed like an impossible kind of like requirement that she'd only return if eight eight straight generations of girls were born.
Wait, why?
So
Wait, why
it's
would she place that requirement
because
herself?
she wanted nothing to do with humanity after that. She was betrayed.
Hmm.
She could have. I don't think there was anything like physically stopping her from interacting with her family, but she just didn't want to.
But
Which I think.
hmm, I mean,
I
at
mean,
least from what we could tell from like Hanyu, is that pretty sure she was like kind of like lonely until Rika showed up. So like if she placed that herself because she wanted to distance
well, let's
herself
keep
from
in
them.
mind that uh, I mean, current Hanyu's view of things is very different because so how much time has passed, and her she doesn't remember things very well. So I don't think we can we can trust it like 100%. But I
Hmm,
think it's fair to believe that like Hanyu in that moment would have felt very differently.
I guess that's possible.
I think that's also why the reason why she would have, if we assume she's the one who sent that lightning to Miyoko, because that was before Rika, so she would have still been like bitter.
But I mean,
Um,
okay, if it spanned over, like what, couple hundred years was it? I mean, how long? It was a while, but then the difference between Miyoko and Rika, like isn't that many. You think she would
Well,
have
I think
such a big future so quickly?
I think Rika being born radically changed Hanyu's kind of um view on the world and even kind of the personality she projects. No, we only see very small glimpses of like Hanyu, like the goddess.
I mean, do you think?
In most of her scenes, Hanyu acts more of like a mentor, somewhat of a kind of a trying to be a cheerful motherly figure in a way. We never really see like her really her I guess dark side you could say. But I think kind of there is some evidence backing this up, like the Hinamizawa syndrome. I think the syndrome could be affected by how like Hanyu feels about humanity. Because if think about it, the syndrome's all about like distrust. You know,
But if
Hanyu was distrusted humanity, but like over time, as her feelings have mellowed out, the effects have gotten weaker.
yeah, I guess that's plausible. Yeah.
Because we know, I mean, the syndrome is some supernatural, like in nature, and I mean, I feel like it's a pretty. There's gotta be some link to Hanyu, and if she came to Hinamizawa, then the syndrome probably came with her, or it appeared after her death. Actually, I think to note on that, I think Hanyu might have like if we say the syndrome like came with her as like a demon disease or something, then that humans didn't really know how to handle. Then I think Hanyu did try to set up those like original guidelines of
Yeah.
Oyashiro-sama, because I think it was said that some about how like that to trust each other, like these not to do things that would harm the community. Like I think it was mentioned at one point. I think
Yeah, it was.
that Oyashiro used to be like a god of uh marriage or something like that kind of also fits it there. But then after her death, then suddenly we get all these stories about the villages of Onigafuchi being like violent and being extremely like I guess xenophobic you could say, which I think could have stemmed from like then Hanyu's the disdain she gained from humanity and influenced by that feeling. So that way we can have both because if it was always that way, it doesn't really make sense where all these supposedly helpful traditions came from. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's a compelling narrative. But then, eventually when Rika was born, the eighth generation, Hanyu just decided to, it had been so long, she decided to give humanity an honest chance. And, she started seeing her own daughter, what's her name, Oka, in Rika, and she fell in love with humanity again. So then when Rika eventually died, she felt, I guess, partly responsible, but she desperately didn't want Rika to die after she had finally found her. So that's why she let her emotions get the better of her and then sent her into another fragment, even though she knew the risk. Uh, and after that, she became like really afraid that Rika would turn into a witch. So she she tries to make Rika not think too much about things, and I think crucially, she also didn't tell Rika how to approach the fragment world, how to interact with it, because she was scared that would accelerate her turning into a witch, which is why Rika has made so little progress because she's like playing chess blindfolded. She doesn't even know she has access to the pieces.
But if you're saying that Hanyu isn't in the fragment world herself, how would
Yeah,
she know how to, like, manipulate the fragments?
she doesn't. She can't. She all she can do is, I mean, she can still. She can all she can do is just send Rika into a new fragment.
But you're saying
And
that she kept Rika in the dark about, like, how to, you
well,
know.
she presumably would have had some knowledge back from when she had those powers. Like, probably would have remembered something. So, but she probably, even if she didn't, like, she would have told Rika not to like experiment or mess around and just go into the next fragment.
I mean, I guess this would be a good point to discuss, like, what exactly Hanu's powers are. So,
Yeah.
like, you think it's that she then, like, sends Rika into the fragments?
Well, yeah. And through her, Rika reaches the fragment world and she prepares a new fragment that she can then enter. But the whole connecting fragment, that's something Rika has to do.
Hmm. One of my ideas was that she just, like, kind of rewinds, puts, Rika into the past, kind of rewinds time, and, that's what creates the new fragments.
Well, I don't think there's any rewinding going on. It's like it's just creating a new possibility, like in the past. But it's at least from maybe due to her damaged powers, she has to base the new fragment off of the current fragment she's in, kind of reconstruct the past, which then has some differences, but this costs her power, which we see is decreasing.
Yeah,
Uh,
true.
I think if she was in the fragment world, she could probably create some more, as she could probably create some more wild fragments, like not for more different or further in the past.
I mean, I feel like that's
I
more
mean,
so just due to her weakened power at that point.
yes, which is what I said.
Yeah, but that doesn't, exclude her from being inside the fragment world herself.
Well, but we don't see her in the fragment world. I feel like I feel like this. I mean, what do you think her damage does? 'Cause I feel like her not being able to access the fragment world makes a lot of sense. Because otherwise, why wouldn't she be there to just do the connecting fragments herself? Why are we seeing this from Rika Castle's point of view instead of just Handu doing it all?
Well,
Hmm.
the way it explains the text is that she had already tried for hundreds of years, but that she failed. She couldn't do it.
I I don't think they were trying. I mean, as the whole terminology like Rika uses, rolling the dice. They're not engineering a victory, just hoping the random like changes in the fragment will lead to a success. Like chapter 8 is the first time like Rika actually tries to kind of set up the board in a favorable position. So just hoping they'll land like on the right sides and the right squares that could. And she doesn't even know the board is there.
Hmm. Pretty sure it's implied that's already. I guess it could be that the hundreds of years is them just. I guess maybe that could be construed as it's just them trying over and over, creating new
Yeah, because
fragments to see if that would work.
that is what it is. Like they
Hmm.
to specifically say it's like that they spent the years, going through new fragments. I don't think it's implied anywhere that like it's related to the connecting. 'Cause, I mean, I feel like just the idea that before chapter 8, like it was more so just Rika just getting lucky, whereas in chapter 8 she's like actively seeking like outcomes she wants. That's Like she's creating the outcome she wants. It's a totally different method. Like if they were doing that before that, we would have heard.
I felt I had some clip where it was mentioned that they were kind of working on it before. They had at least tried.
You're saying they specifically did
Hmm.
connecting fragments before.
Like
Like
they like no,
what?
they tried to do it, but it was it was difficult. They couldn't they couldn't do it before.
They tried to get a favorable outcome in the fragment. Not that they tried to create a favorable fragment. That's very different.
Hmm.
Rika was trying to solve the situation from within her, like the tools she had available as like a child in the fragment, which she eventually grew disillusioned into doing. You can see she doesn't try anymore in the fragment. I don't see why. I feel like that was pretty clear. I don't know why you would associate it with connecting the fragments.
Yeah. Okay. But I guess if we're on the topic of the connecting fragments, I want to my theory is that the player plays a part in that part of the story. They're the ones who put like the fragments together.
Yeah, that's stupid. I'm sorry.
I mean the
um,
the start of connecting fragments kind of implies that with the uninstalling of the the product. If they if you give up, you only experience those first 7 chapters.
yes, which is pretty good evidence for my theory. That these scenes are kind of like an part of an autobiography written by Bernd Castle after the fact. I think
Why?
after I think after I think like in universe Higurashi is written by Bernd Castle as like after the event, which is where these little snippets before each chapter comes from. Which is why they have the name Bernd Castle under it.
Okay.
Even though during the story we see some of like at least in the chapter 7, I think we see something very similar written like that Rika says, but obviously we see them as attributed to Burn Castle, which she
Hmm.
would do because she would after the events of the story she like compiled like the story of how she came to be into this neat little fun thing and added in some I guess fourth wall breaking lines here and there
Yeah, I
as a
mean,
little nod.
if this is an autobiography, why would she tell the player how to do the connecting fragments at that point?
Well,
Like, don't think that makes
because
sense.
because the autobiography is in the form of a VM, or I mean, or you could say it's an adaptation,
So you're
like
saying like the visual novels themselves are her autobiography of like the events?
if you want to get like a really meta with it, I'd say that the visual novels are like like Ryukishi adapted like the book or whatever written by Burn Castle into a visual novel and just added in that little bit of gameplay there. So like it's a little bit strange, but it still fits. Like
Hmm.
I mean, I think it
Yes.
makes a lot of sense. Like why those poems written by Burn Castle are at the start of each chapter. Like I think that
Hmm. I
because
mean
we also
that part makes sense.
and it also explains these other strange discrepancies. Why would why would Rika be breaking a fourth wall that doesn't exist? Doesn't make any sense. But if it's like this is kind of if you know, but if Burn Castle's kind of telling us this and kind of well then it makes perfect sense. It's just she's just breaking the fourth wall during the story.
Hmm.
I think it's her way of kind of getting closure, because being a witch is kind of not great. You're kind of a strange, you're a strange being of like all the kind of the humanity removed, which you don't know. Humans are pretty good, so like you're kind of a strange husk of a soul, which is exactly why she needed a new identity,
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
which
Hmm.
I think ties back to why I think Miyoko being the witch opponent makes a lot of sense, because she got she's after she won as Takano, then she didn't have anything to do anymore. So instead, she got a new goal of, I guess, torturing Rika in new fun ways, and she stopped actually caring for how Takano ended up, because she wasn't Takano, which I think is pretty exemplified by Takano. Not even if Takano succeeds, her ending isn't actually that good. Like, no one's just she kills, like, she destroys Hinamizawa, but it's covered up. Like, she don't
Yeah,
her
that's
father's
true.
her grandfather's research isn't gonna be recognized. Like, she
Yeah.
fails, which makes a lot of sense if whoever's on the other side of the game board doesn't actually care if Takano wins after Rika's dead. She just needs Rika to lose on the game board. What happens to Takano after that is completely irrelevant, because none of her business. She's just there to play the game until Rika either until Rika gives up. I think also this lens that I've provides a very satisfying explanation for one of the last scenes where Hanyu dodges that bullet.
Oh yeah, I want to
Because,
discuss that scene as well.
because if you take it at face value, it's pretty stupid. Like, it feels very Deus Ex Machina. But if you view it the from the perspective of the game board level of Rika versus Miyoko, then it's much more interesting. Because if you think at this point, I mean, Tekno's already lost. All she has a possibility of doing right here is killing Han, which
Yeah,
what
which
would,
is
what would that accomplish? Because let's see, what would happen if Hanyu died? Well, that severs, like, if Hanyu's dead, that severs any possibility of Rika's connection to the fragment world. It'd be completely impossible without Hanyu's power. So I think the proposition that Rika made to Miyoku there is that if Hanyu stays alive, then there's still a possibility she could become a witch later. If Hanyu died, then that it would be completely impossible. I mean, Rika life would be shit, but she won't be able to become a witch anymore, which kind of would defeat Miyoko's whole goal. So then, that way, Rika convinces Miyoko to resign the game. It's like as if we're going with a chess analogy, then Takano's a queen and like Kanyu's the other queen. It's like she picked up the piece, but then ended the game. So it's like the bullet was fired, but it didn't arrive at its intended destination.
I
I,
mean,
I think that makes a lot of sense. And as we see, Miyuko did kind of get what she wanted when Burn Castle split from Rika. She does
hmm.
have a Burn Castle, even if maybe not the way she wanted.
I mean, my theory was that if it was already stated before that that Hanyu's time on the on the game board would be temporary. She wasn't gonna stay there with the rest of the cast. Like she was gonna return at some point, but then the idea that my theory is that then at that moment Burn Castle stepped in because it's kind of implied that Burn Castle is in a higher level than Hanyu is.
Well, it's
Due
just that Rika has access to the fragment world at that point, and Hanyu doesn't. Because I think that's when chapter 8 is when Rika learns how to play on the Game Boy.
but yeah,
For that,
um,
she's only playing as a piece. Chapter 7, for example, she tries really hard, but she's only working as a piece on the game board and not on that higher level where she can see like all the all the pieces moving.
yeah, it's true. But yeah, my theory is then that yeah, this is Burn Castle's interference is what then prevents Hanyu from being removed off the game board again. Like she was ready to like sacrifice herself like she originally did in the beginning.
Pretty similar to my theory. I just add that extra layer of Miyoko. I think makes a lot of sense because I mean she's her opponent, so then that would
Wait, but
mark
are
the
you saying
conclusion. The
that's Miyoko is the one who saved Hanyu?
No, I'm saying that was like the final. That was the moment that the game ended when Miyuko agreed to resign after Rika told her the situation. What do you not understand? I feel
Like
like
who are you
trying
saying saved Hanyu? With the miracle then?
both of them. Rika's the one who convinced Miyoko, but Miyuko's the one who designed the game, canceling the move. So it's like depends on how you interpret it. It's like
I mean, like
it's just a consequence.
after miracle, there's like a flash, with some text that says like, welcome home, mother, and that can only really be true from like, I guess Rika's perspective. So I
I
think it's more so
I
like,
don't really know what your why that would be relevant.
well, because like that, that's probably from the force that saved Hanyu, since it's in like the kind of thing style, it's like out of the world
I mean, she did
text,
manage to
and
save Hanyu, so yeah, that still fits.
but it's not like Miyoko in
Well, I
that
mean, yeah,
case.
she doesn't give a shit about Hanyu.
I mean, you were kind of playing it was like a joint thing between them.
Wait, I mean, huh? I mean, joint in the way that Rika couldn't do it on her own. Like,
But yeah, I mean, my theory is that
she
that's
needed
where
Miyoko to
Burn
agree to that,
Castle
but like,
stepped in.
Rika's still the one who wants it to happen, who who
Mm,
put in the effort to make it happen. That I think that's that's well, it's a miracle. It's marks the end of the game. I think that's very kind of thematic, I would say. The game's over. Now they can go on with their lives. I think it makes sense to also address that on the fragment world level. I mean, a lot of my theory is just not that much. It's not really evidence for it, but I think just from a story level, it's very satisfying. Like I just just I mean we know there's an opponent in the fragment world. Why not have it be Miyoko? Like with those couple maybe clues we have, I think it makes a lot of sense.
like, do we know it's an opponent like in the fragment world itself?
I mean, we know about the game board. We know Rika's player. Like it can't just make sense to assume there's another player on the other side too.
Hmm.
Rika just because she wasn't playing on the game board, she just hasn't seen them yet. She only then finally encounters them during chapter 8, like on the game board level, but we don't get to see that
Hmm.
because we're on the fragment level. I
Yes.
just think it ties so well together. I want to believe it's true. Also, just gives a very interesting arc for Rika that kind of somewhat fixes like the really strange thing where she just doesn't really do much in chapter 8 where she forgot shit. Because like in chapter 6 she gains back the hope to play, and then chapter 7 she does as much as she can as a piece, and then chapter 8 she finally accepts the power she can use in the fragment world, and starts acting as the player she was all along, the the position that she had.
Okay.
Well, since we're there, I think maybe the reason why Brika forgot be linked to maybe Hanyu's like damaged power. I feel like maybe like figuring out that Takano's the culprit would have like been a pretty big emotional shock, which is why they failed to uncover it all the other time, because if in those rare instances they do, they just forget. So I think that kind of explains the strange plot hole where like Anu is kind of learned that it doesn't work, but only through like just the sheer like attempt of chapter 7, just can they kind of break through that and give Hanyu and Rika the hope needed to kind of to take action like in the next world.
I mean, yeah, because like
Enough
Hanyu
to
was the
like
one who didn't,
enough
believe in Minagoroshi.
in enough to pierce the barrier. So I feel like in previous timelines where they found out Takano was the killer, neither of them believed enough to have that knowledge transfer over. So,
I
but in
mean,
chapter 8, Hanyu in that one, I guess, kind of flashback of when Takano arrives in Inamizawa for the first time, and Rika in the fragment world, they both know, but at the cost of then, Rika kind of forgetting the timeline, because it's like that took a lot of the kind of, I guess, memory energy, I guess. There wasn't like any left for Rika's human body. That's the best I can come up with,
hmm.
'cause it just doesn't really make that much sense, to be
I
honest.
mean, is
So,
there any reason why you can't just assume that, like, like they didn't find out? Like, that was the first time they found out it was Takano?
well, then we have kind of that strange plot hole of why Hanyu never just followed Takano and found out it was her.
I mean,
Like, because
I
like,
don't like she was their ally. She didn't really
yeah, but they
suspect
would have
her.
done it like at least once. Come on, like
Mm,
it makes Hanyu either seem stupid or just evil if she was like covering it up. And I think those I don't really like those arguments. I think this makes more sense. Kind of recontextualizes
mm,
what we see like in between chapter 7 and 8. Because like otherwise, why did Rika just randomly forget stuff? Maybe this has happened before, which just we just it just wasn't enough. I mean, that's kind of the main difference of going into from chapter 7 to 8, is that they found out that Takano was the culprit. So I feel like it does kind of make sense to think it will be linked.
I mean, yeah, I guess it's also then that like
I mean,
Hanyu
if
got
we,
her
I mean,
hope
we
back
know,
as well.
mm, yeah, which is why they were able to keep that memory. And Rika and
Hmm.
Hanyu had hope, which is why they were able to
Yeah.
keep the memory. But as we saw,
Hmm.
Rika loses the memories of before she died. So like if we know if they were able to remember the information they normally wouldn't be able to remember, then that would have to come from somewhere. So instead,
I mean, another
lot
difference
more memories were taken from
between the
Rika.
two, maybe the reason Hanyu remembered in Matsuribayashi is because Rika didn't get put under the, didn't get put to sleep before she was killed, like in the other timelines.
I mean, that's totally possible. Yeah, that that
I
could be
think that's
it.
probably the reasonable explanation. I think that's why
I
Hanyu
mean,
remembered it because they are
I
linked.
feel like
So
having the hope. would makes a lot of sense too.
I mean, yeah,
Could be a
that also
combination
matches.
because it's the first time that Rika and Hanyu had hope. Well, and they discover that Takano's the culprit. I feel like they could have discovered Takano was the culprit before, but either neither or one of them didn't have the hope, which meant they
Hmm.
just forget. Because as we know, both Rika's and Hanyu's memories have to like be passed through Hanyu because she's the one that transfers Rika to the new fragment. So both of their hope was needed.
Yeah, I think it's probably just a combination of the two
I mean, it's
factors.
totally. I think it just left. I mean, it's vague enough that we get to make our own conjecture. So I think it totally could be both. Let's move on to a new topic. I already mentioned what I think is going to happen in Psycho Rush. What do you think is going to happen?
And I don't know really about like the events that are gonna happen, but I feel like we'll probably get more of Hanyu's backstory that's like clarified a bit more.
Oh, you think it'll cover Hanyu's backstory?
Yeah, give it a little more context.
I don't think that's probably necessary for kind of wrap up the story. Tying up the whole situation between Rika and Burncastle is kind of the last thing the story really needs to do. Kind of the one
Hmm.
really kind of big thing left, at least from a narrative standpoint, I feel like. I think
Yeah,
it just makes sense to wrap up Rika's story like that, to say that now can she's fully human again, that she can enjoy life. Just I think it's just that makes sense with what we see in the banquet, how Red Castle definitely seems to be separate then. So I think that makes sense that would happen in Saikoroshi if it acts as a kind of epilogue.
I could see that. Although, I mean, yeah, we do like kind of see a little bit of that already. At the end of Matsuribayashi,
Yeah.
how
So
Rika continues,
So I think it makes
further.
sense to just kind of address that in the epilogue. Rika is the main character.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
It makes sense to wrap up her story. The one last thing to say.
Yeah, that would make sense. One of the theories I had was on which instances Hanyu is able to be is visible to others.
I think that's just one of her powers. I mean, we see that she can in chapter 8 she can choose to become invisible again for some couple moments. She's like back in a kind of godly form.
Wait,
So I think it
it,
just makes sense. She can become, I guess, corporeal. It just takes a lot of energy, so she doesn't do it until chapter 8 when she has like a really good reason to.
hmm. Because, I mean, I guess,
Uh,
but you would think that, in that loneliness, she developed, from not being able to interact with anyone. If it was merely, a power she had, you would think she would just, use that power then? I
well,
think it's a bit more
that's
complicated than that.
I think that's why. Or what? One. I think just. I mean, I think the main thing is that she didn't want to. She didn't want to interact with humanity, so she didn't. I mean,
Okay,
they
that's
killed
fair.
her.
But like,
They like
why
they like
then?
they did all these horrible rituals that in her name. Like, why would she want to be with them?
Yeah, but
Rika's then the first time that she gave them a chat again.
yeah, but then like, why wouldn't she then like, fully appear in front of like Rena or Keiichi when they're having their mental breakdowns and Hanyu is like apologizing to them, like.
Well, Hanyu's main goal is just not letting Rika turn into a witch. If you use her powers or something useless like that, well, then there'd be less time. Rika could go back, and if at some point she'll be go back so little time that she just go insane and just turn it and fully give up hope altogether. Like, and
So
so she
you're
she wants to conserve her power as much as
hmm.
possible. That's why we only see her use using at extremely crucial moments, like in that one flashback in the we see connecting fragments, because they deduced that was necessary to have Keiichi move to
Yeah,
Hinamizawa,
that's true.
and in chapter 8 when it's kind of they've gained back their hope and they see this as their like best chance of winning.
Yeah, I
So she
also
she thinks that chapter 8 is them putting like all their eggs in that one basket, hoping to finally win.
yeah,
Like she
I considered
before that she was just
the
like doing everything she could to conserve energy. She couldn't just waste it on something that wouldn't help Rika.
yeah, I considered the idea that it was like due to her will or just the power she had, but then there's also the scene where Keiichi, when he like first goes to the school right after he arrives at Hinamizawa, Hanyu is just with Rika in that scene, and there that doesn't affect anything later down the line. So
Well,
why would she appear in that scene then if it was a power she had to conserve?
well, there probably is a reason. We just don't know it. I think maybe it's like she needed that to have like make Keiichi feel more welcomed and like have him integrate into the group, something like that. Like,
I, I
uh,
mean, I guess that's
I mean,
possible, but you would
I
think
mean, I
that
feel like
would, happen
if I feel like
anyway.
well, that's what we think. But I mean, if how you decide to appear, there must have been a good reason behind it.
And
I
one of my other theories related to that is that it was, related to, how, people with high levels of Hinamizawa syndrome can, sense her more. So I thought that maybe if you have, if you don't have Hinamizawa syndrome, you are able to perceive her, but
well,
that theory
that does
didn't
not make any
work.
sense.
Yeah, I mean that theory fell apart when I realized that since Takano is immune, in that case she
Well,
would be able to sense Hanyu, and she clearly
well, it's
doesn't.
more
So
about all the people who had the vaccine.
yeah, exactly.
Although the vaccine isn't seen as like fully effective because Takano does get Hinamizawa syndrome at the end of chapter 8, seemingly. Uh,
Oh,
but still, I think it makes more sense to assume there must have been some reason that we just don't know.
I
That
guess that's true. Yeah, that's probably it.
personally, I feel like I've covered most of the theories I want to talk about, and maybe we
Yeah,
could move now
same.
into the thought part.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine.
So something I kind of noticed is that through the experience of you know reading Higurashi, we have kind of become witches
How so? Like, what, because of
because
the outside perspective?
well, yeah. Think back to when you started Higurashi. No, we were just in it for the simple fun of the club games activities. We were just there, experiencing it along the character. But but now at the edge of the story, we've got like a bird's eye view of everything. You know how the characters act. We know them kind of inhuman level on a way that makes it hard to interact with them the way we used to. Just like which is kind of just proof that going through these time loops makes you more detached. Just like what happened to Rika and Hanyu.
Yeah, I mean, it's also the fact that, for the first few chapters, we were stuck to Keiichi's POV, but then we started getting, switching more between perspectives, getting different perspectives, and that, widens the understanding we have of the world and the characters.
Oh, yes, which is kind of how like Rika, how after through those time loops she gathered knowledge, learning how the world, how Hinamizawa and her friends kind of tick in a way. We just had it
Yeah,
accelerated.
yeah, that's true.
But it would happen either, if you did have those separate perspectives. So I think that's just really interesting, like synergy, and on a meta level between both the stories about.
Yeah, it's also that in the beginning, you're just kind of reading it, spending, time with the club. And meanwhile, in the subsequent chapters, you're kind of, waiting for the Watanagashi to happen and, shit to start going down.
Yeah. Although a part of me was also like Rika, kind of just trying to enjoy those little moments of fun that were available, cherishing them. It's like Rika tried to.
Yeah, since they become increasingly rare, closer
Yeah.
to the end. But what I really liked about the chapter is how it kind of ends in that more open way that you still get that ending, but then Banquet kind of shows that there are other possibilities. So like if you don't like the way it ended, you could just kind of like make up your own version of how it ended, and that could be considered another fragment. Like,
Yeah, I guess it's true. Although personally, I feel like Matsuribayashi had a lot of issues as a chapter.
I
Uh,
personally like enjoyed it a lot. It's probably my
'Cause I feel like
favorite.
just the message was hard a little bit because it felt like just Rika, like the guy, just won too easily.
I mean, I
Like
feel
a
like
lot
that's
of
because
the
of the work you put in during connecting fragments.
oh yeah, but
That's why
that part is kind of unresolved. I had to make this whole really cool theory about Miyoko to kind of have it have a better conclusion. 'Cause I feel like
I,
otherwise it's
I mean
leaves that little kind of bit kind of unresolved. That makes it feel kind of unsatisfying because
I mean
we don't get to see Rika like develop as the one tackling this challenge, the from the fragment world. We're just left to speculate on if that even is Rika. Like you think it's Birdcastle, which kind of doesn't really work when it's like the main vehicle of solving the story. That's why I kind of assumed it's Rika because it kind of makes sense from a narrative point of view, along with the other things I mentioned.
I personally, I don't think it really negatively affected the chapter. That like, that Rika like it's a little too easy because because the fragment world, that's where you kind of put the work in. You fill up the perfect
Well, yeah,
opportunity
we do
chance.
it, but we don't get to see Rika grapple with that, which I would have liked to see have that kind of speculative part just be part of the actual chapter.
I
Because I
mean,
feel like without it, just that some of the middle bits of the chapter just kind of dragged on. Like,
I feel like there was a lot of like it didn't really like drag on like the same way the the saving Sadako bit did in Minagoroshi. Like there was a lot of as there was a lot of just a lot of like climactic
well,
moments spread
yeah,
throughout the story.
different stairs. I feel like the favorite tactical bit. I feel like that was kind of on purpose. That
Yeah, that was
I
definitely on
felt like
purpose,
that.
but I don't think there
Well,
is
chapter
really.
8 that feel on purpose. Like,
And I didn't feel like there was a moment like that in Matsuribayashi. I was never
I,
bored.
I don't know. I kind of was, to be honest.
Because I mean, like first you have, like the ending of the prologue where, Takano declares war on Hanyu, then you have the ending of connecting fragments.
I mean, I do also feel like the connecting fragments lasted a bit too long.
I don't know. I felt it was like very epic
Kind of
seeing it
repeated
come
information
together.
there.
I mean, some, yeah, but I think like it made sense. Putting it all together in one place. Making it very
Wait,
clear.
I mean, yeah, it made sense, but it's still, it still was kind of a slog at parts.
I mean, well, I think that kind of also fits narratively. It's supposed to be difficult and challenging and tough. That's why it hasn't been done
Yeah,
before.
yeah, I agree with that, but we don't get to see like Rika tackle it because
But
we don't get to see
it's
the
the
face
player
of that.
who's like tackling it. Kind of
It's
take
kind
on
of
that role.
it's
That interactivity.
yeah, but we don't get to see the rest of the fragment world storyline. It's just that one bit that makes it feel unresolved. Like I feel like if we had that confrontation between Rika and Miyoko I mentioned, that would have brought it all together, I feel like, from a narrative storyline. Like Rika finally achieving everything she worked for through her own work, through her own effort and perseverance. That's why I'm a big fan of that theory.
Hmm.
Ties the it ties up all the kind of the strange narrative bits. I do think the whole Akasaka thing was a bit Deus Ex Machina-y, to be honest. Uh,
I
I was
mean, it kind
I
of
feel like
made
he
sense.
was I feel like he was we could have just had him back without him being a superhuman warrior. I think that would have been good enough.
I mean,
It just felt like a bit cheap, to be honest.
like they there was still like pushback. They nearly lost multiple times. So like, I don't think it was like
But that's
extremely
not the
cheap or
issue. I feel like
anything.
that's not the issue. I feel like the problem with you having the connecting fragments as a justification for that is that we know so little about the connecting fragments, like just based off what's actually presented in the game that it doesn't really feel like they earned it. If we knew more about connecting fragments and what it was like for Rika up there, then I would have
Hmm.
had much less problem with it. But
I don't know
yeah,
because like
that's
the
true.
connecting fragments is you setting up that perfect timeline. I don't know like what more there is really to like elaborate on
We
really.
Yes, but we don't get to enjoy the emotional weight of it, which is what's important for Higurashi. No, we don't get to see Rika overcome her previous failures and like actually do that. Like we need a bit more in there than this all this vague stuff we got. It's just it's too much. Like we need a
Hmm.
bit more revealed in for the fragment world, I feel like.
I feel like still fine. Maybe we'll get more on the fragment world in Higurashi then. That could make
Maybe we will. Or we'll have to wait until Umineko.
sense. That one's supposed to be even more mysterious, so who knows?
What was your favorite scene in Matsuribayashi? No,
Ooh,
I'm curious.
uh favorite. There's so many good ones. Some of the ones I've already mentioned. I personally really like collecting fragments. There's also the Takano declaring war on Hanyu. There's
I mean, the other way around.
uh, I think they kind
Hanju
of
declaring war on Takano.
isn't it that they pretty sure like they both do it.
Oh, I guess. I don't know. I only thought it as Hanju declaring war on Takano.
I think
But
Takano
that's
declares war
anyway.
first.
Really? Well,
Or
I guess
I
I'm
think it's more for
misremembering, but
Takano, but
that's my favorite scene.
yeah.
Just that competition between Hanyu and Takano. It's really
But I
good.
think if I have to pick my favorite, it would probably be like after they've kind of like at the end of the story where we finally get to see how Rika moves on past June of 1983 and like kind of
Yeah, it's a
the
good scene as well.
futures of all the
That's a good one.
characters. That would definitely be my favorite scene.
It's nice to see her think about the future.
Exactly, it's so nice.
Yeah.
And the chapter also had some banging music, but
Yeah, it
that's a
did.
given.
I mean, it's Higurashi, come on.
Yeah. My
Uh,
favorite track would probably be Airplays, honestly.
ooh,
Although You Destructive, Beyond the
yeah,
Skies
that's gotta be my
are also
favorite.
great. Banquet,
I mean,
even Squall is nice.
yeah. So, what do you think Higurashi's main message is?
I mean, I think it's related to perseverance, having the hope for a better future. Because that's what Hanyu and Rika have to gain back, and it's also maybe a sub message or another message is that you need to trust your friends because it's that distrust that causes the paranoia, the problems that Keiichi, Rena, and Shion face in the chapters.
That's pretty good. Or I think personally, it's more about how everyone's human and deserves the chance at forgiveness. I think that's why we get Takano's backstory. Is that even she is is just a person who made mistakes, and like at the end of stories, like she's done a lot of horrible shit, like, but she still has the chance to atone. Like it's gonna be hard. She's gonna have to put in a lot of effort, and like no one she doesn't owe it from anyone, but she has the chance. It's still possible. It's not like she's not irredeemably evil. No
Yeah,
one is.
that's true. That would fit with the other characters as well.
I think that's really what Higurashi's trying to say.
I think it could have multiple messages. I think that's definitely one of them for sure.
I feel like that was the strongest one, at least.
Yeah, well, it was
Was
especially
just
strong in Matsuribayashi for sure.
yeah, that's true. Higurashi is such a unique, beautiful story. There's really nothing else like it.
Except maybe Umineko.
Well, we haven't played
Yeah,
Unico,
I know,
so
but
let's not hype ourselves too much.
true, true.
For all we know, Ryukishi just really flubbed it. You know,
I mean, from what I've heard, I don't think so, but it's
oh
probably a
yeah, no,
different type of story. Yeah, some
let's
more.
not count our eggs before they hatch.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair
Uh,
enough.
yeah. I'm more curious to see how Sakurashi resolves the story, and I guess I also am pretty curious about the Koso arc. So even though they weren't written by Ryukishi,
Yeah, I'm also curious about the conclusion to that as well.
even though Higurashi's over it,
I mean, still we still have
there
all
are
the the filler arcs as well. So
that's what I was trying to say. Higurashi's over, but there's
it
still more
doesn't
to say.
feel
It's
over.
still it's it's what that says at the end of the banquet. It still exists in our heart.
Yeah,
If we don't want it to end, it doesn't have to.
exactly.
Well, I feel like that's a pretty good place to end it.
Yeah,
Uh,
I would say
We've
so as
uh
well.
we've covered our our big theories about what that's left in the chapter. Covered what we thought about the chapter generally. I think that's a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah, yeah, that was the podcast. If you have you have any other of your own thoughts and theories on Matsuribayashi, you can leave them, in the comments if you want. But
Yeah.
with that, we'll see ya.
Yeah. Thanks to everyone for tuning in, and hey, maybe we'll do this again in the future.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe
That
we'll do Higurashi.
maybe we will.
But no promises on that.
Yeah.
Given my upload schedule.
That's Isapopo.
And that's Green Starfish out.